One of the great things about what I do is I get to work with lots of organisations around the world, different sectors, different areas. And so I see change management practices for good or ill, and I thought, I wonder if there's any general pieces of advice that I could come up with. So let's call these lessons from the field part 1. Part 1 is 10 lessons. Let's look at them. Number 1, do get access to senior leaders. Number 2, don't ignore managers and supervisors. Number 3, do start with the why. Number 4, expect resistance. Number 5, don't expect change to happen by magic. Number 6, do address culture. Number 7, do realise that organisations have or should have a shared purpose. Number 8, do realise that many executives and managers believe that having a clear plan is the final deliverable. Number 9, do realise that it's human nature to want to revert back to what we know. And number 10, do realise that change is all about me. So let's have a look at each of these. So let's start with access to senior leaders. And sometimes people are reluctant to bother the sponsor or other senior leaders with details about the change programme. Maybe they think they're too busy, they're not interested, or it's quotes beneath them. But that's wrong. You know, active and visible executive sponsorship is the #1 success factor for any people-dependent change, and lack of that is the #1 failure mode. So you need to have access to the primary sponsor and the sponsor coalition if you're to be effective. And a key learning for senior people in organisations is that for every executive decision they make regarding a change programme, usually to do with time, scope and resources, they've got to take actions, and they've got to take actions for every single one of those change programmes that are active. So if there's 100 change programmes, 100 sets of actions, and sometimes that's a startling revelation, but you can't get away from it. And so that leads us ultimately to a discussion about enterprise change management, where we prioritise and categorise programmes so that all the actions that need to be taken for successful adoption and change can be taken. 2, don't ignore mid-level managers and supervisors. And so like with sponsors, success depends upon them doing change management stuff. But I often see this group being left behind, maybe even left in the dark. Maybe sometimes they find out about change at the same time as their people, at the same time as the people that they're expected to help through their ADKAR process. We know that managers are the most resistant group. They're already busy, and now we're asking them to do more work. So spend time with this group, get access to them, and make sure they're fully engaged, mandated and supported to undertake the change management activities. Do start with the why. Does everyone know why this change is happening, and what happens if it does not? Too often I see that isn't the case, at least initially. It seems obvious to me, but you'd be surprised how many times the folks who are expected to change the way they work for project success have no idea why it's happening. They see it as just another IT change, one of many. They have no context, they have no vision and no buy-in, so start with the why. Number 4, do expect resistance. It's always going to happen. I've never seen a change programme, no matter how widely accepted an organisation it is, with 100% support. Plan for resistance, identify where you think it'll happen and put mitigations in place. Have a process to capture and mitigate that resistance and realise that you'll never get anyone. Number 5, don't expect that change will happen by magic. And I see this all the time. Think about how many times you see, as ProSci says, an email on Monday for training on Tuesday for a change on Wednesday. It just doesn't work. And the most fundamental insight in all of change management, all of adoption, is that without doing change management, you'll get about 16% adoption. And that's among early adopters and innovators. Everyone else, the early and late majority and the laggards, they need help. So ask yourself, is 16% adoption project success? Likely not. Number 6, do address culture. If culture's wrong, your change is unlikely to work. Culture eats technology for breakfast, lunch and dinner, as the famous quote goes. Analyse culture, then use that analysis to drive actions to address cultural issues. And that starts from the top. My experience, it's difficult, it takes time, routine, but it's essential. And number 7, do understand that organisations should have a shared purpose. The most basic tenet of organisational theory is that an organisation is a group of people who work together in an organised way for a shared purpose. Any change to that organised way or shared purpose needs to be managed. It needs to be managed by change management. Number 8, do realise that many executives and managers believe that having a clear plan is the final deliverable. And many assume that organisational changes will occur and that will beget or drive a full transformation. A change isn't just a blueprint for a new structure, it requires changing people's mindsets and practices. That's a quote from Daryl Connor. It's all about taking people from the current state through the transition state when the change is happening to the future state. Do realise that it's a natural human tendency to revert back to what we know. And as Prosai said, there's research emerging about how the brain functions that suggests, quote, it's not just a natural tendency, but a psychological tendency. Now, making a change is difficult, sustaining a change can be even more difficult. Therefore, reinforcement is such a critical component of successful change. It encompasses the mechanisms and approaches so that the new way stays in place. And finally, for this top 10, do realise, and this is important, that for humans, changing is all about me. That means organisational change is the sum of individuals in the organisation making personal decisions to embrace, adopt and use a change or not. This is often overlooked, although in Prosai's 5 tenets of change management is explicitly listed. If we look at Carl Jung's work and how we change and how we function as individuals, he said, even when I am dealing with empirical data, I'm essentially talking about myself. For me, that's all about the desire element of the Prosai ADKAR model. So those are my top 10, perhaps my first top 10 lessons from the field, lessons from working with many organisations in many locations around the world. I'm sure I'll come up with some more, but for now, I hope that helped a bit.